Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku had a genius for a guardian part 1. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see part 2, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story passing the friend from Wattpad. So let's start the video. It was a simple day in fall, and as always Nedzu's day started with a cup of tea while he watched over 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐻. After all, he was the principal of 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐻 and he needed to make sure the safety of the school was in tip-top shape before the school day started. For 10 he was enjoying the pleasant taste of lemon and honey chamomile tea while looking at the security cameras surrounding the 𝐒𝐻𝐻 building. Nothing out of the ordinary so far. The training areas were clear, the cafeteria was empty, the basket outside 𝐒𝐻𝐻 gates. The faculty, 166 wait a minute. 155 Nedzu looked over yet again at the camera showing the view outside if the 𝐒𝐻𝐻 gates. Yes, that is indeed a basket. A woven straw basket with a light green blanket covering the top. But there seemed to be slight movement underneath the blanket. 160 Nedzu jumped from his chair with a certain amount of difficulty since his height provided a bit of time to be taken getting up from it. Honestly, he thought he ordered it with the smaller height. Once his feet touched the ground of his office, he headed straight to the front of the 𝐒𝐻𝐻 gates. Once he got there, he lifted the blanket expecting exactly what he saw. 126 a baby. 642 a young human baby with curly green and black hair. The baby opened his eyes at the light that was blocked by the soft blanket, letting out a soft cry from the brightness of the sun. His emerald green eyes peered up at the principal before cooing slightly and reaching for him with his chubby little hands. 1K Nedzu crouches down and picks up the baby gently from the basket, and now the baby is closer he can indeed see the freckles that speckled his round little face. The baby's body was dressed in a very old-looking gray onesie that didn't look to provide much warmth. 129 taking his eyes away from the baby, he looks back down at the blanket to find any clue of why he was abandoned. Sure enough, there was a tiny letter that was under the blanket. 37 Nedzu, while holding the baby safely, opened the letter to read the contents of what reason a human would just abandon a perfectly innocent baby. The baby looked around calmly while in his steady hold, clutching at his red tie while he started to read. 82, hello to whoever is reading this. 26, I couldn't handle raising a baby without his mother. She died in childbirth. When the baby was given to me, I couldn't handle the responsibility combined with the grief of the loss of my love. I tried my best for the past 2 months to love him, but I can't give him a life that he deserves. Please take care of him and love him. When he is old enough, tell him I am sorry for not being strong enough for him. His name is Izuku, his mother gave it to him. 189 There was no signature at the bottom. 79 Well, Nedzu thought as he looked down at the baby. The baby, having noticed the principal was looking at him, let go of the tie he was chewing on to smile at him. At least they're cute. 769 21 Hello, I found this baby outside of my school and I am adopting him as mine, Nedzu tells Detective 𝗧𝗵𝗲 as he sits down in the chair with help from a step stool at the police station. Was a baby cradled in his arms. The father abandoned them because he couldn't handle being a father. 252 𝗧𝗵𝗲 read the note over before sighing, I am assuming you came here with the note for me to track down the father. 2 Nedzu said with a smile, of course, only to charge him with child abandonment, because I won't allow him a single chance to be near this child. No father should ever abandon their child no matter their grief. 482 𝗧𝗵𝗲 smiled softly, I am also assuming you would like some adoption papers to make the adoption official. 12 Nedzu said happily, yes, I am taking Izuku as my own. 139 The baby, hearing his name, stirred from his nap to peer up at Nedzu. Nedzu looked down and smiled when the baby smiled happily at him. Izuku's bright green eyes blinked from the lights, his fists clenched softly onto the blanket around him. 79 𝗧𝗵𝗲 shook his head with fondness. That kid will be loved by your staff more than you could know. He is probably going to have a lot of people wrapped around his finger. 198 I wouldn't blame them for growing an attachment to him. My son will be shown the love and care that he deserves. And if anyone doesn't agree, then I wouldn't mind teaching them a lesson. Nedzu ended with a sadistic smile. 269. God, help whoever gets on Nedzu's bad side by harming Izuku in any way, Tsukachi thought while getting the adoption papers and documents put together for the intelligent animal. 301. He glanced over as Nedzu smiled when Izuku grabbed onto his paw with a gurgled laugh. But there is no doubt that kid will be the death of us all if he is even half as smart as Nedzu. 276. 19. Nedzu watched as Izuku looked around his office making soft noises each time he would be interested in something he saw. He was especially interested in the bookshelf with the many colors he saw on the spines. 127. After his trip to the police station, he went to gather materials needed for human infants. The detective gave him a list of needed items that babies really needed to get. He got the most important items like diapers, milk, pacifiers, bottles, and a crib before he ventured onto toys, clothes, and other things he knew Izuku would like. After gathering a multitude of items, he went back to his office right as the teachers were heading to their homeroom class. Thankfully, no issues happened when he was gone. 78. He left most of his items in his car since it wasn't logical to bring out all the items into his office. He filled a grocery bag with necessary items such as an onesie, a pacifier, a wrap for him to hold Izuku, formula milk, a bottle, and a diaper or two just in case something happened. 164. He changed Izuku into an onesie to finally get him something else other than the ragged old gray onesie he had under his green blanket wrap. He held Izuku in front of him to look at his new child. Oh, what else could Izuku need? Babies need a lot of items, and especially when they grow up. He knows he has to buy a lot of diapers, but what else does he need? 45. His thoughts of what he needed to acquire were interrupted by a smell. He twitched his nose before recoiling away from the source, which happened to be Izuku. With careful thinking, he requested help from two of his students to help deal with the problem at hand. He knew that these two have some experience with children. Since Tensei was absent today, he handpicked two students he knew were responsible enough to take care of Izuku and to deal with the problem. A certain problem he can't deal with alone. 72. A diaper change. 1455. Why do you think Nedzu called us to his office? Oh God. Do you think he found out about that one time me, you and Tensei got banned from the supermarket? He can't possibly expel us on that, can he? Hizashi asked loudly to his friend who looked quite done with the conversation already. 174. I don't think he will expel us just because we got banned from one place. At least I hope not, Aizawa thought as he continues talking to his classmate. At most, he would just be calling us over to his office to discuss something to do with school or something. 99. They both walked on to the principal's office. Aizawa did more of the walking while he dragged the scared Hizashi behind him. Aizawa went to knock on the door before he heard, Aizawa and Yamada. Come on in. Nedzu said through the door. Aizawa opened the door while Hizashi was standing behind him, shivering slightly from the uneasiness of Nedzu's quirk. Although they both straightened up when they saw the confusing sight before them. Nedzu was holding a baby. 35. Nedzu's paws indeed contained a green blanket-wrapped baby in what appeared to be a mint green bear onesie that reminded Hizashi of one of the cartoons he watches with his nieces. The baby looked away from Nedzu to the two strangers and did his best to move his hand toward them with a stuffed mouse held tightly between his fingers. 56. Aizawa and Hizashi thought at the same time, what in the hell? 80. Hello, students. As you can see, I have come to be a parent on short notice, but I need your help with something I have never had to deal with before in the line of my work. Nedzu started while he lifted up the child slightly. You see, I have no clue how to change a baby's diaper. So I gathered you two since I know you two have experience with acting with small children such as Izuku, and I know you two are the most capable of doing so. 192. Aizawa stared quietly at the baby as the child, Izuku, stared right back. Hizashi was relieved that he and his friends weren't in trouble and that he can do something he knew he was good with. Hizashi gulped back his disgust as he remembered how bad the smell can be before heading towards the baby. 50. Izuku startled out of Aizawa's gaze to look at the young man with bright yellow hair. Izuku immediately was interested in the bright color and started to reach toward his head. 13. Hizashi smiled at the cuteness overload that was the small child before carefully bending down and gathering the young child into his arms, taking him to the corner of the room to get changed. Nedzu and Aizawa stayed back as Hisashi broke down the steps of dealing with a dirty diaper, all the while changing Izuku efficiently. Aizawa was plugging his nose from the smell as Nedzu still kept a smile in his face as he nodded along to Hisashi's instructions. Aizawa also added his own advice since he babysits for his next-door neighbor. Adding advice like, make sure they are entertained or else they will go anywhere else to find it, and I mean anywhere. He then continued with a short story of how he prevented a small 1-year-old from crawling under a fence in a garden. For 22 before long, Izuku had a fresh, clean diaper with the old one going straight in the trash. When it was all done, Hisashi scratched Izuku's stomach, which in return made Izuku giggle before carefully handing the baby back to his principal. 13. Thank you so much for both of your help and insight toward taking care of Izuku, Nedzu said as he set Izuku down in his floor crib because the baby seemed to automatically fall asleep after getting his diaper change. 26. Aizawa nodded softly, still looking at the baby as Hisashi winged his hands together. Hisashi asked carefully, would it be okay if we checked in on Izuku just in case you need help? 18. Nedzu smiled more genuinely and said, of course. As long as it doesn't harm your grades, by all means, you can come in and drop by. 16. Aizawa looked slightly relieved as Hisashi smiled brightly, thank you. They both continued to the door and was about to shut it behind them as Nedzu spoke up from his seat. 8. And let this be forgiveness on that stunt you pulled with Ida Tensei's quirk in the supermarket last week. 8:47. Aizawa and Hisashi both froze and nodded blankly before closing the door. The friends seemed to walk slowly back to their class as Hisashi said what both of them were thinking. 9. How does he always know? 1:57. From behind the door of the office, Nedzu laughs behind his cup of tea. Nedzu is so done with humans 319, maybe not all of them, but only the really annoying ones. 82. It has been that long since Nedzu had adopted little Izuku into his personal life. He enlisted his students Hisashi Yamada and Aizawa Shoyuta to help with figuring out how to become a good parent over the small child. After successfully filling out the official paperwork and dealing with the social workers directly, he officially has Izuku as his son. It did take some convincing, but Izuku is now his to call his own offspring. 60. Detective Tsukachi, who he put in charge of finding the father and convicting him of child abandonment, called him only a few days after he took Izuku under his wing to tell him that the father had come willingly into the prison. 183. All was going great. He even got more things for Izuku to play with. Speaking of Izuku, he personally cleaned up his guest room, which was easy because no one even volunteered to go over to his place. So he took the empty room and made it Izuku's child room. He placed a new crib that was white with intricate flowers engraved into the wood against the wall closest to the door. The empty dresser was filled to the brim with onesies, diapers, socks, blankets, shoes, shirts, pants, and some animal-themed hooded towels he recently brought home. Nedzu had a changing station with a trash can right next to it for easy disposal. The play area consisted of fluffy circle rugs with many soft stuffed animals thrown about. He has a stationary jumper and activity gym when he grows a little bigger in the corner. 161. But his favorite addition was the rocking cradle that was soft ivory with a plush inside that he used to rock Izuku to sleep. Nedzu knows what it was like to feel alone and abandoned by humans, so he made a vow to never let that happen. He created a school for everyone to be safe, and now he has a baby who deserves the love and cares that he wasn't shown. 104. Same with his office. He still had the first crib he bought right next to his desk to keep an eye on Izuku while he slept while he went over his work. He had a few changes of clothes and diapers in his office in case there was an accident. He allowed a soft rug to be placed down on his hardwood office floor to allow Izuku to roam free. Of course, the baby proofed the whole room before he even let him down from the crib first. He allowed a multitude of pillows, blankets, and stuffed animals around to keep his office from being too boring for Izuku. 28. In short, Nedzu was a proud dad. 177. Until the students somehow heard Izuku's cries of laughter outside his office and automatically went to gossip about how Nedzu had a child now. 16. Safe to say, if he ever finds the specific person who did it, there will be hell to pay for unintentionally putting his innocent child in danger. 126. Speaking of students, he has to tell them he has a child, so they can finally let it go. Nedzu agains to plan a short assembly indoors so that the whole school could attend. 19:8 Hey Aizawa. Hisashi whisper yelled to his dark-haired friend who was resting his head in his desk. What do you think Nedzu will do about the whole rumor thing? Now everyone knows about the kid. 1. Lower your voice, Hisashi. Or else everyone will know it's not a rumor, Aizawa said looking up to his friend from his desk. Nedzu will probably just announce it so that the rumor can go away and he can go back to being in silent peace. Like Aizawa wishes, he had right now, but ever since the rumor started, everyone has been buzzing with whispers throughout the days. 18 Hey, guys. The two friends looked over at their friend Ida Tensei as he walked over to them with his lunch bento wrapped up in a light blue bow. He sat down near them before continuing on. Everyone's been going on about just a rumor. I honestly don't care about rumors and only wait for the truth. 59 Oh please. We all know the Pat. If it was true, you would want the first look at the little munchkin Ida. The three looked over to see their only female friend Namuri Kiyama. She pranced up to them with her long black hair coming down in beach waves. I wouldn't mind taking a look at his baby if he had one, but everyone is going crazy over a stupid rumor. Geez, even if it was true, they don't have to talk about how Nedzu would be a bad dad. Personally, he wouldn't be bad, but maybe just very protective. She shook her head distastefully before sitting down near them with her own purple bento. 76 Aizawa and Hisashi didn't really want to tell their friends about the baby without Nedzu's permission. Because knowing them, they would declare themselves the honorary aunt and uncle of the baby even if they haven't even met them yet. 35 Just when Aizawa was thinking about what to do about the situation, the intercom came on. Oh no, Aizawa and Hisashi thought at the same time while their friends and the rest of their classmates looked confused. 7 Attention, all students and teachers report to the inside gymnasium for a special announcement regarding some news I have. Oh hell, Aizawa thought as Nedzu's voice continued on through the speaker. Please start from the upperclassmen down to the freshmen in a calm and orderly manner. 14 Namuri looked very interested in the announcement. Oh ho, what happens if he is about to lay a smackdown on the kid who started the rumor? 137 Tensei shook his head as they gathered with their class walking toward the gym. I doubt that. I don't think the principal would do such a thing over a rumor. It's more within his power to unleash his anger toward that student when the teachers go against the student in those battles. They all shivered as they remembered how Nedzu gets when he unleashes high specs. 104 With the speedy time of 10 minutes, all the class was gathered in the school gymnasium waiting for whatever the principal had to tell them. They honestly didn't know if this was just a normal school assembly that just wasn't scheduled or an abnormal meeting that was about to rock their whole world up. 9 And apparently, it was the latter when Nedzu showed up with tea in one hand and a baby cradled against him in the other. Needless to say, everyone freaked out. 22 Attention students. It has come to my attention that a rumor has spread about me having a child in my office. I don't really know why you would think I would kidnap a child, but I will let you know that I would do no such thing. I found this baby and I have adopted him as my own. He was abandoned just outside the school gates a week ago. I took it upon myself to raise him as my own, and I will have no such tolerance towards any behavior of this sort any longer. If you have any suspicion towards me and how I raise my child, say it to my face instead of gossiping behind the closed office door. If you have any problem with that, speak now. Nedzu said with no trace of a pleasant smile present on his face as Izuku looked up at him with curious eyes. 126 Izuku was wearing a blue onesie with a light brown baby deer that was smelling a pink rose. His little feet were covered by white socks which were embroidered with pink cherry blossoms. In his little hands, he held a small light brown teddy bear that's left ear was currently being chewed on lightly. 76 God. Nedzu looks like one of the moms you would see at a PTA meeting, Aizawa thought as Hisashi looked on with a smile. Tensei and Namuri looked ready to claim their honorary aunt and uncle titles as soon as Nedzu stops talking. 131. Will there be any further questions on how I raise my son? Nedzu looked on towards the silent crowd. Great, there will be no issues then. 5 Nedzu continued. If there are any further drama or gossip about my skills in parenthood, don't think I will extend any mercy towards you just because you are my student. Punishment is not that far out of reach since my school is meant to be a safe place free of discrimination. Nedzu ended with a sadistic smile. I believe there will be no further problems. Yes. 32 The resounding yes from the crowd of students was so loud Nedzu plugged Izuku's ears ahead of time. Nedzu sipped his tea as he spoke from the podium. 27 This issue of gossiping brings up a real topic regarding the offspring of pro heroes. I will see to it personally that everyone become more educated on this topic with your teachers to help you understand the importance, Nedzu added. The mic from the podium picked up on Izuku's soft sound as he played with the teddy bear in his hands while Nedzu took another long sip of his tea. 30 Nedzu smiled at the gathered crowd before ending with, You are all dismissed to your classrooms now. Except for you, Yukimura. 509 The student in question, who some remembered as the one who spread the rumor, trembled in his seat. 124 Do stay behind, would you? I need to talk to you personally about the 10-page essay you will write about the importance of the truth and how lies can spread into something more heinous. An easy assignment compared to the other punishments than I had in my head. You are lucky that I am letting you off easy this time. Never do something like this again unless you want to face harsher punishment. Nedzu said, smiling as he felt Izuku giggling from his perch against the young principal's chest. Izuku wiggled his stuffed animal in his hand before taking the other ear into his mouth. 78 Most students said a quick prayer for Yukimura while the quartet of friends just shook their heads at him. 50 Gs, he is a second year too. You would think he would know better than to go toe-to-toe against Nedzu. Tensei said offhandedly as they all walked back to their classroom. 18 V. Serves him right. He shouldn't have done it in the first place. Aizawa stated as he internally sighed that Tensei and Namuri didn't find out about the connection between him and Hisashi already acting like his godparents. 38 I wouldn't want to be him right now. And hey, I was right about him laying a smackdown on the kid who started the whole thing. Namuri said proudly before smiling fondly, and that baby was so cute. I wonder if Nedzu will allow us to bring gifts for the little boy. 24 I wouldn't be against giving the little fella a few more stuffed animals, Tensei commented. The other three knew that since his little brother was born, he was dying to let loose big brother instincts. And since there is a new baby in town, he will pull out all the stops. 179 The day after the assembly, things were pretty much back to normal. Except for Yukimura, who looks thoroughly awake and asleep at the same time while carrying a multitude of books from the public library from class to class. 33 And as always, Aizawa and Hisashi were in the middle of math when there is a knock on the door. They both slowly stopped their writing to look at the door. Tensei and Namuri pause in their work as well as the other two as the whole class turns to look at the door. The door opens to show Nedzu with a baby swaddled in a hands-free scarf attached to the principal's front. With the principal, smiling with car keys in his hand. 5 I need to enlist the help of Aizawa and Hisashi on an emergency trip regarding Izuku since I have enlisted them as the godparent guardians, Nedzu said as Izuku looked around at the scenery of the classroom. 95 What? The whole class shouted, but the most significant was Namuri and Tensei. The two friends look at each other and sighed before following their principal out of the school building. 10 The two looked thoroughly confused with what was happening as their principal led them to his car, which was styled after one of the earlier models of a Volkswagen Beetle. 41 Principal Nedzu, where exactly are we going? Hisashi asked carefully as the teacher climbed up into the car to help buckle Izuku in the back seat in his dark green car seat. 11 The principal only smiled at him before shutting the back seat door behind him and maneuvering on top of the center console to get to his own spot in the driver's seat. He adjusted the setting to bring him close to the pedals, made sure his mirrors were in order and made sure Izuku was safe in the back. He rolled down the passenger window slowly to face his two students with the only answer that makes sense in this situation. 9 Nedzu only smiled happily as he called out, "Get in, losers. We're going shopping." Nedzu was fine with no sleep. 101 Yeah, nothing wrong with losing a little sleep, especially when it was because of Izuku. There was no harm about staying awake another hour or two rocking him to sleep in his cradle. No biggie on reading a bedtime story when Izuku wakes up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Surely, No foul about him constantly worry about Izuku getting hurt because he is in his crawling stage and wants to head-butted everything he see. 277, Nope. No problem that this has been going on for a few days. No problem at all, Nedzu thinks as he looks down on Izuku on the floor crib in his office. He was wearing an old-school superhero-themed onesie with a soft cape attached to it with green and white being its main colors. It took so long until Izuku had tired enough to go to sleep. 51 First off, he woke up to crying in the middle of early morning, which was easily fixed by a quick bottle of warm milk and some walking around while patting his back until he burped. He woke up again to his alarm, which caused him to wake up Izuku when he was immediately greeted with a smile and the smell of death coming from his diaper. 194 After the diaper change, he got his work suitcase and Izuku's baby bag ready before he was greeted by a wail from Izuku. He looked down to see Izuku trying to clutch his head from the small pain he experienced from bumping his forehead into the only not baby-proofed spot in his house. He swooped down to take the crying child in his arms while bouncing him slightly, shushing him quietly while rubbing his back with his other hand. 204 From that fiasco on to the next, when he was halfway to work when he realized he left not only Izuku's favorite toy that he couldn't possibly fall asleep without, but also his paperwork that he finished from last night. Nedzu had to drive all the way back, pick up the items, and then wiggle back into the driver's seat before heading double time to UA. Which reminds him of the apology letter he needs to write to that poor electrician who was having just a lovely day before he stormed into him. Safe to say, he might need to send some compensation from the utter scare he caused the worker to experience. 12 And Nedzu would think that at least at work, he would be safe. 5 93 Oh, how the universe really hate him sometimes. 131 Nedzu had to deal with a supposed gas leak that needed to be fixed fast, only for the professionals to show up and say it was just overheated water that somehow intersected with the garbage disposal smell. Which made their pay doubled because they were only supposed to fix a leak, not fix up a whole system of pipes. And then he had to deal with the electric company calling about how he apparently traumatized one of their workers. He talked down their whole lawsuit thing pretty quickly, but that meant he really needed to put compensation in his apology letter to pay for a few therapy lessons. Then he had to go through paperwork, which was always so fun to deal with. 85 Then, for a moment there was peace and calm in his office for once in the past 4 hours since he woke up from his nearly non-existent sleep. For a split second he thought, this is nice. 15 He was instantly shocked out of that thought since he saw Izuku head toward the bookshelf. Which would have been fine until he realized the snow globe he bought while he was in one of his very few vacations was a little too close to the edge. He rushed over as soon as Izuku slightly bumped into it. Good news, he caught the globe. Bad news is Izuku is crying again. Nedzu bit back his inner turmoil into a smile as he picked up Izuku and settled him down. 24 This incident caused him to completely stop his work to watch as Izuku literally avoided every single safe space he saw and headed toward any dangerous spots he could see. It was like he was a danger magnet. 2 hours later, Izuku finally went to sleep after eating his applesauce. 155 Lunchtime, Nedzu thought as he remembered about the students in the school and looked down at the papers before him with sad eyes. Before turning his attention back to his self-bought, Number 1 Dad. 50 I wish I knew how to quit you, Nedzu said smiling at his teacup with his 5th cup of caffeinated Earl Grey which he quickly chugged before continuing with the endless amount of paperwork. He peeked over at Izuku's sleeping form, silently wishing for him to stay just like that for a while. 143-12 I still can't believe Nedzu took you guys shopping in the middle of class, Namuri said pouting as she picked some pork with her chopsticks. 7 It was less shopping with us and more using us as help to shop for Izuku. Hisashi said smiling softly. It was more of us reaching the places he couldn't get to than anything else, Hisashi thought to himself. 123 The shopping trip itself was eventful. Especially when everyone saw 2 high school students with their principal carrying a baby across his chest as he dragged the 2 towards the baby section. He took some of their advice while picking certain foods and drinks that was helpful toward a baby's growth. 19 But of course, when they arrived back in time for lunchtime, their 2 other friends took one look at them and started to hammer them with questions. Which made Hisashi pull the oldest trick in the book. Hizashi pointed behind them, said, "Hey! What's over there?" Before taking off with such speed even Tensei couldn't stand a chance. Well, he technically could chase after him, but they had Aizawa with them, which was all they really needed to begin their interrogation. 30. How long have you known? Nemuri asked 48, the same day he found him. Aizawa responses. How come you didn't tell us? Tensei followed up. It was a private secret between the principal and us. If we would have told you, all 4 of us will probably have the same punishment that Yukishima had to go through. Aizawa said with his dark eyes looked more bored with every word. Nemuri questioned, how do we get on this? Why do you want to? Aizawa asked. Why wouldn't we? Tensei answered. Look, I'm a great older brother to Tenya, so I can definitely help out the most with how to take care of kids like Izuku because he is around the same age of Tenya. I'm sure that I can help out. I will do it in any way that I can. 37. Aizawa looked to Nemuri to find out her answer. I always wanted to spoil a kid by being the coolest aunt. And Izuku looks like he deserves to be spoiled, especially by the most awesome aunt that he could ever have. 1:15. At the end of their little interrogation, they decided amongst themselves to try to let Nedzu make them the honorary aunt and uncle. So here the two were having sneaked up to his office after they finished their lunch. 5. So what do we do to convince him to make us part of the whole family? Tensei asked quietly to Nemuri as they both walked toward the office door. I don't really know. I'm hoping he could just give us babysitter privileges, and at least allow us to give him a few gifts. And then sooner or later we will be the cool influences on him, Nemuri answered him before reaching out to knock. 1. I know it's you two, come on in, Nedzu answered, but he sounded tired. 8. The two looked at each other before opening the door to his office, only to gape at the utter mess on the floor. A pile of books that looked like they fell from the bookshelf to the ground, and stuffed animals were strewn all over the room. Izuku was babbling from his crib. All the while their principal had his head down in his arms sitting at his office desk. 20. What brings you two here? Nedzu said with his head still resting within his paws. Izuku gurgled a greeting happily from his crib as his limbs flailed a little bit towards them. 1. Shocked out of the silence, Tensei cleared his throat. Well, we were both wondering if you would consider us being an aunt and uncle to Izuku. We don't even have to have that certain title, Nemuri continued on. We just want to give him little gifts and maybe babysit once in a while if you are willing. Nedzu lifted his head. Why would I let you sit on Izuku? 322. No. Babysit just means watching over a baby while the parent goes away for some time. Tensei explained, fearing what Nedzu would do. Nedzu lifted his head full from his paws and looked at Izuku. He looked back at his student. If I agree, would that mean you will take care of Izuku while I rest? 9. Well, Nemuri started. Yes. Nedzu said smiling, you two can look over Izuku after school today. But you need Hizashi and Aizawa to assist since Izuku is already familiar with them. Great, it's settled that you will watch over him after school. Fantastic. 55. Nemuri and Tensei stared for a moment at the pure joy their principal had on his face. Or was it his sadistic joy that he uses when he gets a chance at fighting the students during the teacher battle exams? For either way, they succeeded in getting to have the cute child all to themselves. 42. We won't let you down, sir. Tensei started before exiting the office with Nemuri next to him. 6. Nedzu smiled as he could already guess what was going to happen when they would look over his little angel. 7. Oh, this is going to be fun, Nedzu said smiling at Izuku, which gladly earned him a smile back. 58. 9. I can't believe you talked us into this, Aizawa blankly said as he, Hizashi, Nemuri, and Tensei headed to Nedzu's house. Apparently after offering one of their houses for the babysitting, he refused and offered up his own since Izuku was more familiar with the layout. 13. It was less talking and more dragging us into their own scheme, Hizashi muttered to Aizawa as they followed behind the obviously too happy of a pair. 15. They arrived at the door for it to open with Nedzu holding Izuku before they even had a chance to knock. Nedzu had an overnight bag held in his right arm with Izuku in his left. Nedzu handed Izuku to Tensei before waving his little paw goodbye at Izuku. 7. I'll be back soon, my little mouse, Nedzu whispered to the curly-haired child before he turned to his students. 98. I have all the materials inside. There is a list of his schedule and where things are located. I left some money for you four to get pizza. If there is an emergency, don't call me, I know what will happen before it does. There are several instructions for each task, no problems. You four have fun. Stay out of my room, I will know if there was any attempt to cross into it, Nedzu explained before walking off toward the elevator. 53. When Hisashi was watching his principal walk down the hall, he noticed his different attire. Instead of a suit and tie, he had on a rather casual white shirt with black jeans. No wait, those were still his dress pants. Too curious over why, Hisashi asked out to Nedzu, hey, what are you doing when we watch Izuku? Are you going to go watch a movie or something? 2. Oh goodness no. I'm going to find the road to 𝐴𝐪𝐴. What on earth do you think I'm doing? I'm going to sleep. Nedzu said over his shoulder before turning the corner toward the elevator. 1:30. The four were stunned at his response before looking down at the child they were supposed to look after for what seemed like overnight. Thank God, they had nothing planned, and for the fact that tomorrow they were off of school. The four pairs of eyes looked down at the small child, smiling. This will be so much fun. 16:9. After about 2 hours of watching Disney movies and eating pizza, Aizawa decided to check off certain tasks on checklist. 2. Let's see, Izuku has already had his bottle. He already had a bath, a diaper change, and his meal of mashed baby foods. We already had dinner, so let's clean up before getting ready for our next task. Aizawa stated, already picking up the empty pizza boxes and throwing them in the trash. His friends followed his actions since Izuku was distracted with Cinderella. 77. They all went to the kitchen as Izuku bounced happily upon seeing the mice fix up Cinderella's dress. He was soft aqua onesie with a embroidered koi fish on his chest. In his hands was a small sloth plushie that Izuku hugged tightly to himself as the pink dress was being made by the army of kind mice. 88. Okay, our last thing is getting Izuku ready for bed. He said that we might need to play with him for a little while before Izuku either gets tired from loss of energy or bored. Aizawa said, looking at his friends. 14. That seems simple enough. Namuri said as she cracked her knuckles. As Aizawa looked back at the paper, seeming to notice a little note Nedzu made a red pen. He looked at the note and paled. Tend to remember not to leave Izuku alone for even the tiniest of time. He is in his crawling phase and seemingly loves to hide. I think it happened when I showed him that one Disney movie with the mice making that dress. It seems he loves to pretend to be the mice, which is adorable when you think about it, but not when he disappears. 242. Aizawa immediately rushed over to the couch in the living room, leaving his confused friends behind. The three friends heard angry shout of, "Son of a biscuit," and rushed over to find an annoyed Aizawa and an empty couch. 77. The three friends were freaked out as Aizawa remained the leader. You know the leader's supposed to remain calm in these kinds of situations. 5. Find Izuku before we get killed. Aizawa yelled at them. Aizawa took to the living room, Hisashi checked Izuku's bedroom, Tensei checked out the 2 bathrooms, and Namuri checked the kitchen. 40. There was no sight of him. 4. He has got to be around here somewhere. Check the lists and see if he said anything about where Izuku lives to be or something like that. Namuri said as she pointed to Tensei to check the lists that Nedzu left behind. 5. There is nothing about his favorite place to hide. It just says his favorite food and toy, and he already took his favorite stuffed animal with him. There is no way to bait him out. Even if we got the food, he will still be full from earlier, Tensei answered with a clutched list in his hand. The only place we haven't checked is Nedzu's room, but it is still locked, so there is no way he is in there. Hisashi said, looking scared at the fact they might have lost Izuku. 22. Let's check the rooms again. I'll take Izuku's room, Hisashi take the kitchen, Namuri you look in the bathrooms again, and Tensei takes the living room. Leave no space unchecked. Open up cabinets and closets. We have to find him before he hurts himself. Aizawa said, rushing over to Izuku's room. 6. The other three friends were filling with dread as they looked at each place they could find. There was no signs he had been in the bathrooms or kitchen at all. And their only trace in the living room if the fact he was there last time they saw him. They were losing hope and gaining fear as they thought that maybe they would have to check Nedzu's room. "I found him," Aizawa said as he looked inside Izuku's closet. Izuku's closet was open, but no one checked inside to see that Izuku had crawled his way to the back of the closet where there was a pile of soft blankets. Izuku had crawled from the living room to his own bedroom to go to sleep. Aizawa smiled at the headache-inducing baby as they softly breathed in a deep slumber. 45 Aizawa picked him up gently before carrying him to his crib. Thankfully, Izuku hadn't woken up. The 3 teenagers showed up at the door, saw Izuku sleeping and fell to the ground exhausted. "I haven't had a scare like that since ever actually," Tensei said lying on the ground, looking up at the painted ceiling with glow-in-the-dark stars. 16. Namuri and Hisashi agreed as they yawned. "I'm going to make sure I keep an eye on Izuku from this chair," Aizawa said slowly as he slumped down in the padded rocking chair overlooking the crib. It was a bit small with his tall figure, but he made it work. His head resting against his shoulder as sleep overtook him. Nedzu was smiling at the sight before him with a well-rested mind. The 4 teenagers had passed out from the overexertion from chasing Izuku around the house. Their bodies were all around the crib, so Nedzu made sure to step carefully toward Izuku. Izuku was wide awake, so when he saw his papa he reached out his hands toward him. He smiled, took the child from the crib before carefully moving around the bodies once again. He paused at the door. 16, "Sleep tight, children," Nedzu said, smiling at the 4 passed-out teenagers before exiting Izuku's room with a giggling Izuku slightly bouncing in his arm. 28. I wonder how long it will take them to notice that Izuku's closet that has a mini passageway to my room, Nedzu thought with a smiling Izuku staring up at him. He tickled Izuku's belly slightly, which made him giggle up at Nedzu with bright eyes. Nedzu was to attend a meeting with all the principals of the hero school in Japan in less than a day. 31 Normally, he would just go to the meeting normally, but since he had his new baby to take care of, all his normal plans and schedules has gone out the window to care for his little mouse. Which is more fitting because he dressed Izuku in a white mouse onesie today with pink socks. He loved the fact he could dress up his son in any onesie he wanted to. Next time, maybe a small tuxedo so they can have matching formal wear. 158 Nedzu kindly embraced the crawling stage by giving him that onesie. And now after some time, Izuku had let up on his crawling adventures to just crawl over to his toys now. The issue lies in the fact that Izuku has started teething recently. When he says recently, he means that morning, which means that he has to be gone for a few days when Izuku's teething stage has just begun. 69, which means he will have to get a nanny or 4 for a few days until he comes back. He is sure he can bend the rules a little bit, as long as the 4 nannies can do their schoolwork while they are away from school. Nedzu needs to remind himself to buy some futons, so they don't sleep on the floor again. 79 Izuku babbled from his floor crib with a cold teething toy in his mouth. Nedzu smiled down at him. "Hello little mouse, Papa's going to have to go away soon, but don't worry, your nannies will take good care of you, since I'm in charge of whether they get expelled or not." Izuku laughed. 324. Yes. Now time to make a list for them to follow to heart this time, and a grocery list to make sure they don't raid my special snacks. 178-12. I can't believe Nedzu is letting us off of school for a few days just to take care of Izuku. Hisashi yelled at his friends, pumped at the chance. Small bag of clothes and schoolwork adorning arms as well as his classmates. 21. Seriously. Don't you remember the last time? You know, when we lost Izuku? Aizawa asked deadpanned as he walked with his friends to Nedzu's room. Lighten up. We found him at the end anyway, didn't we? What's the worst that could happen now? Namuri said as she bumped her arm against Aizawa. 78. Anything worst can happen now, Aizawa said to Namuri. 24. The 3 nannies walked to the room with conflicting thoughts in their head. Tensei couldn't make it since he had to take care of Tenya, but he promised to help them with homework and any baby tips, as long as they sent him cute Izuku picture with Nedzu's permission. The trio's parents agreed to the 3-day weekend babysitting sleepover since they knew it would teach them responsibility for taking care of a baby, and especially since they were still going to do their homework. For Nedzu came through the door when they were a few feet from it. His face less tired but more sad. He held Izuku close. See you soon, my little mouse. I'll be back before you know it. Izuku babbled in his little mouse onesie. Nedzu handed Izuku to Aizawa carefully. Everything you need should be in there. I have $20 a day for your food budget, anything else will be out of your pocket. There is the updated list on the fridge. I went ahead to purchase some food just in case. 39 Nedzu waved goodbye to his students. Just so 3 know, he is on his teething stage, so have fun. He ended with a more sadistic smile. 11 Aizawa thought as Nedzu walked off, son of butternut squash, not again. 138 Everything was going smoothly. 6 was what a crazy person would say. 53 After Nedzu had left, Aizawa and Hisashi read the list of things to do out loud as Nemuri kept Izuku in her arms in the living room. They skimmed what was the normal routine before heading to the bottom. Yes. Izuku is very picky when is teething. I found out this morning when all he wanted to be either his teething toy. I tried multiple methods before landing on his cold toy. He specifically only likes certain things to chew on, this being one of the 3. He will drool and get grumpy. Be prepared, students. 11 Okay, so as long as we have the teething toy, we will be fine, right? Hisashi said before looking down at Izuku chewing on his fist. Where the hell is the teething toy? 14 Aizawa flipped the page over. When I was writing this list, I noticed Izuku no longer had his toy. I haven't a clue where it is, but you 3 will be showing at the door any minute, so no time for a backup plan. Thank goodness. I have all the other methods present in the kitchen. Knock yourselves out. 86 Aizawa grumbled and ran his hands over his face. Nemuri went to ask what was wrong when the 3 days of hell started when Izuku opened his mouth in a weak wail. 2 First method, chilled spoon. 16 Hisashi, what the hell? Aizawa asked, yelling at the blonde fiend with the cold spoon in his hands like a stabbing tool. 1 I put the spoon in the freezer, was I not supposed to? Hisashi asked, yelling back at his friend, trying to hear each other over the wails of the infant that was being held by Nemuri. 5 Nemuri whispered, yelled at him, you were supposed to put it in the fridge and you weren't supposed to put it in wet. 5 Why not? Hisashi asked. 1 Aizawa raised an eyebrow before holding up a cold stainless steel spoon covered in ice that gets jagged in some spots. Gee, I don't know. 19 First method, chilled spoon, failed. 6 Second method, fingers. 31 Ow, 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 Hisashi said while his newly cleaned fingers were getting chewed on. 31 Hey Hisashi, can you feel his little teeth? Nemuri asked with her finger crossed that this might work. 11 I feel it. And I don't like it, Hisashi replied back. 48 Izuku started to get irritated with his finger, so Izuku grabbed his finger and took it out of his mouth. Letting one big frown across his face, he whimpered softly. 23 Second method, finger. Failed. 1 Third method, teething gel. 24 It was after dinner and the 3 already finished up their homework for that day. They even did tomorrow's ahead of time, the best as they could since they had some quiet time at last. I can't believe Aizawa found the answer, Nemuri grumbled as she looked at the peacefully slumbering Izuku laying on top of a napping Aizawa on his futon. 41 Hisashi placed a blanket over the 2 before climbing into his own futon. Turns out, the teething gel really helped Izuku calm down, especially since Aizawa rubbed his gums afterward. Nemuri glanced at her phone. The digital clock read 9:30. It took 4 hours for Izuku to stop fully crying. And this was just the first day. Hopefully, the gel works out tomorrow. 3rd method, teething gel, success. 5 4th method, freezing a washcloth. Apparently, the teething gel only works when Izuku was tired. Because as soon as Aizawa went to place it on his gums in the morning, Izuku threw the squeeze container on the ground. Not wanting to fight, the others turned to new solutions. 24 Nemuri froze one of the washcloths in the fridge and one in the freezer. Both of them were dry. It seemed to work until lunch when Izuku threw the washcloth at Nemuri's face when he was done chewing on it. They tried the backup from the freezer, but it was too hard for Izuku. 37 4th method, freeze a washcloth. Failed. 7 4 5th method, peeled ginger root. This time, they called in the favor of Tensei, who sneaked his phone into class. 41 Tensei texted them that Tenya seemed to like peeled ginger roots to help with his teething problems. So they tried that. Nedzu had a few peeled ginger roots in his cabinet. Hizashi guessed that it must be because he tried one of these methods before, and he prayed to whatever god was close enough that this was the one he liked. 13 Nope. Izuku threw that root away as soon as Hizashi placed it in his mouth. Hizashi's hope was crushed as he watched as the ginger root fell to the floor. 14 Fifth method. Ginger root failed. 6th method. Bath and face massage. 12 It was late and close to Izuku's bedtime. Izuku was still trying to teeth by chewing on his onesie while the three of them kept a close eye on him while they ate pizza again for dinner. Aizawa was the first to finish and brought Izuku to the bathroom to get him cleaned up for bed. 10 Aizawa helped by getting Izuku in a good mood by making bubbles while he bathed him. When he was dressed for bedtime, he gently massaged his little cheeks like his mother used to do for him when he was young. 12 Izuku was smiling at him while slowly going to sleep. Aizawa placed a small amount of the teething gel on his gums before laying him down in his crib. 8 Before long, Izuku was out cold. 4 Aizawa. 2 Hizashi. 0 Nemuri. 0 326th method. Bath and face massage. Success. 4 7th method. Vanilla extract. 64 Bath time, however, was just a short fix. And when Aizawa tried again to rub on his little baby cheeks, Izuku got grumpy. He sighed and wiped the drool from Izuku's mouth using a tissue. Nemuri tried a trick that her mother did to her when she was little. She found some vanilla extract and put it on a cotton swab. Say ah, Izuku. Nemuri said cheerfully. Izuku looked at the short white wand strangely, opening his mouth slowly. 14 She coated his gums with the extract before pulling back. Izuku seemed to taste the overwhelming vanilla but otherwise stayed calm. 25 Yay. She finally got a point. 6 But after lunch, he got grumpy again. The vanilla didn't work again since Izuku wouldn't allow the cotton swab near his mouth again without causing a fuss. 1 7th method. Vanilla extract failed. 48 3/8th method. Cucumber slices. 4 Hizashi thought of a brilliant plan when he was making a sandwich. He pulled out a piece of cucumber for Izuku to chew. Izuku was quite happy with the cool green slice for a while before he started to wail again. Nemuri and Hizashi sighed, resting their head in their hands while Aizawa picked up Izuku. Aizawa bounced the child lightly, trying to soothe him. 1/8 method. Cucumber slices. Failed. 2 3 Aizawa was bouncing Izuku in his arms as he walked back and forth in his room. He rubbed Izuku's back and hushed him softly. Izuku's cries weren't as loud as before, but he's still worried. He wiped the drool away from Izuku's mouth again, but then he noticed something on Izuku's dresser. Something that looked like a teething toy, son of a butternutter. 103/9th method. Teething toy. Successful. 11 Nedzu walked in to see Aizawa on the couch holding a fed, dressed, diaper changed, and happy baby bouncing on his leg. Izuku had his spare teething toy in his mouth. Nedzu wondered how long it took them to find out, but seeing their tired faces he could only imagine it was just recently. 52 Nemuri and Hizashi said goodbye before they left very tired. Aizawa stayed a little far behind to give Nedzu the update on the methods they tried out. And how Izuku has been over the past few days. Izuku clung to his father while chewing on his giraffe teething toy. He wore a mint green and white striped onesie with a bunny tail on his butt. Aizawa smiled at seeing Izuku so at ease before taking his leave as well. It might have been a hard few days, but Izuku was worth it. 25 Nedzu turned to his son when all the teens were gone for the night. He smiled softly at his son's already drooping eyes. He carried him gently to his room and laid him down in his rocking cradle. He slowly rocked him as he hummed a song that they saw in one of those Disney movies Izuku loves so much. Izuku fell asleep slowly with the embrace of his father's warm presence and easy voice. Nedzu was experiencing parental excitement. 73 Izuku has been babbling more often lately when he is playing around him. He expects soon that Izuku will say his first words. He watched him play on 10 floors of his office on a fluffy rug. Izuku was dressed in his new favorite onesie that was dinosaur-themed. It had a beige-purple coloring with dark cloth spikes going down his hood onto his back. He was playing with a yarn-stitched octopus that was about the same height as him. They both had matching smiles as Izuku rolled on the floor, holding onto 3 of the tentacles. 90 Nedzu realized Izuku was getting older, and that thought excited and terrified him. Terrified him for many reasons, but excited him for a reason he believes will come soon. By his deductions, Izuku will say his first words soon. He was beyond happy. His face was held in a big smile when he walked into the building that morning. But he supposed it was an unusual sight since his faculty looked like they were about to call Recovery Girl. Screw them, I'm happy. Nedzu thought as he watched his little mouse crawl around with a brightly colored octopus held in his hands. 46 He knows that it will come soon since a few days ago he had started to mumble and babble different sounds to him. He was going to wake him up that morning only to be greeted with a "bah" from a wide-awake Izuku in his crib. Safe to say, he startled to laugh in joy, even though his neighbors were fearing for their lives at the sound. 1:65 He checked the time on his clock. It was time for announcements for the hero classes to begin heading to the training site that was recently fixed. He gathered the mic for the school intercom and pressed the button. 21:06 I still can't believe it was that difficult for you guys to figure out what Izuku liked when he began teething. Tensei asked after Hisashi explained what fully went on about a month ago again. I mean how? I don't know dude. But we now know that Izuku is picky and Nedzu likes to watch us suffer. Nemuri said with her face against her desk while doing their classwork. Aizawa elbowed Hisashi to gather the rest of the group's attention to the intercom coming online. Good afternoon, hero students of Class 1A and 1B. You may know to use Training Area Beta again since reconstruction is over. Now Class 1C, General Education. 3 The sound of shuffling paper and Nedzu's amused giggle came over the speaker before the sound of Izuku's babbling spread through the school. Bah. Pa. 1:17 Each school then remembered about the baby that Nedzu introduced them to not too long ago. Everyone awed at the cuteness of the sweet child's voice, even Yukimura, who was still quite traumatized over the punishment he received. The group of 4 smiled at the sounds of Izuku before Nedzu continued on with the news for each of the departments. 8. And that is all for today, Nedzu finished. Have a good afternoon. When he was about to turn it off, the whole school heard a quite cute-sounding babble of "bae." 37 The 4 slowly looked back at each other from the speaker that they were all staring at. Let me guess, you all want to go see Izuku during lunch break. Aizawa whispered to his friends. The 3 nodded in unison. Aizawa didn't want to admit he was excited, but he was. They all knew he was just as excited as they were. 34:10 He had a feeling that Izuku would say his first words today. Izuku's has been babbling a lot since he turned off the intercom while he was playing with his toys. Nedzu had a smile on his face while doing his small amount of paperwork. Unfortunately, Nedzu has to go host a quick meeting with the faculty during lunch break. Unfortunately, apparently, a child during the meeting was distracting and unprofessional. The last time they had a meeting, Izuku took all the attention away from the issues that they were facing. Izuku's giggles while he crawled around the office had every single staff member putty in his hands. Nedzu had to make a tough decision and exclude Izuku from the next meeting since it dealt with serious issues that he rather not let Izuku hear. Especially since the support teacher seemed to curse quite a lot and he would not have Izuku's first words be a curse. 2:51 Fortunately, he checked the cameras to see the group of 4 making their way to his office. Ooh, perfect timing. Izuku's sudden laugh seemed to be in agreement to whatever decision Nedzu made. 8 The 4 came into the office with hesitancy, but they already knew that Nedzu knew that they were coming so they didn't knock this time. Tensei was the first to walk in only to awe at the sight of Izuku on his back with the octopus hugged tight to his chest. Izuku looked up at the door and smiled. He started to babble and reach out his hands at the 4 while Nedzu smiled at their entry. Hello, students. What a very pleasant surprise. Nedzu said while he hopped off his office chair to go greet them at the door. The 4 were surprised when he walked to greet them, but Aizawa already had a suspicion that they would be staying a little longer. He narrowed his eyes as Nedzu approached Tensei. 2, nice to see you. Since you are here, you wouldn't mind watching Izuku during the lunch break while I go host a meeting, right? Great. See you. Nedzu rambled quickly before briskly walking out the door. 32 Aizawa sighed as he reached his hand to rub at his temples. Great. Yep, I knew this was going to happen. Izuku seemed to giggle at Aizawa's annoyance with the whole situation. Great. Now Izuku's laughing at my pain. 344 Tensei seemed to be excited about the opportunity to care for Izuku since he missed out last time. Hey, Izuku. How have you been, little guy? Tensei asked, approaching slowly with a smile on his face. He went down on his knees to look at Izuku smiling brightly behind his colorful octopus toy. I see you got a new toy. It looks so colorful. The three shrugged at the other's brotherly behavior and joined him on the floor. They had about 30 minutes before Nedzu came back to have fun with the little Izuku. They pulled out all the stops. Hisashi hummed little songs while Nemuri made one of his dolls dance to it. Tensei made two toys race against each other with Aizawa as the begrudging judge of who won. It was the giraffe toy by a second, the stuffed zebra couldn't keep up. 29 by the time it was time for them to start heading back, which was the bell signaling that Nedzu is done with the meeting, their moods were happier. Even Aizawa, who smiled softly as Izuku crawled over to Nedzu's desk to look at the items on top of it. All right, time to head back to the class, little man. Nedzu will be back soon to see you. Nemuri retorted as she smiled softly at Izuku peering at Nedzu's desk. Papa. Izuku replied with a bright smile, looking back at the four from the picture frame he was staring at. 129. Yes, your papa will be here. What did dash? Hisashi exclaimed loudly, which made Aizawa automatically slam a hand against his mouth. 12. Did he just dash? Tensei started to ask while looking at Izuku's adorable face. 2. Say his first words without Nedzu present. Yes, he did, and he will maim us from jealousy. Aizawa finished his statement with widened eyes focused on the smiling child. Oh no. What are we going to do? Nemuri asked hesitantly from the doorway as she peeked out to see if Nedzu was coming back. 3. Nothing. Nothing. We do nothing. Aizawa replied. 12. What? Hisashi asked with a shocked expression. His first words were Papa. So when he sees Nedzu again, he will say Papa again. Nedzu won't know unless he has a camera somewhere in here. But hey, he will be too happy to notice. Aizawa explained to his friends, who eased at his talking. 12. Okay. He is coming down the hall now. Let's say goodbye, and let Nedzu hear his child say his first words for the first time. Nemuri said. They all nodded before saying a quick goodbye to Izuku, which was rewarded with a small wave. They exited the room at the same time Nedzu walked in. They said hello and goodbye to their principal before heading to their class. Nedzu waved goodbye to the backs of his students before turning around and closing the door behind him. He walked to his desk while looking at Izuku's smiling face while playing with his zebra toy. Ah, I remember when I got him that toy. Nedzu thought, not paying attention to what was in front of him. His toe hit against the desk leg hard while he was too busy paying attention to Izuku. 1. Obiu. Nedzu yelled out before clutching his foot paw. 265. Izuku repeated after his father. 585. 5. I'm a terrible father. Nedzu thought to himself before robotically sitting down at his desk chair. He rested his head on the desk's surface while he listened to Izuku's laughing. Izuku's sound of laughter and clapping did nothing to drown out the feeling of shame that the principal was currently going through. 61. So how do you think Nedzu reacted when Izuku called him Papa? Tensei asked with excitement in his voice as they went to check on the principal and Izuku at the end of the school day. 25. Oh, I'm sure he was happier than he has ever been, Hisashi replied with a smile on his face before opening the office door. Hey, Principal Nedzu, just checking in dash. The office was quiet except for Izuku's babbling sounds. They looked to their principal to see him being emo at his desk. 24. Principal Nedzu. What is wrong? Nemuri asked, carefully treading closer to the depressed father. 2. I'm a terrible father. I made Izuku's first word to be a curse word. A moment that I wish I can take back. Nedzu said as he though, my toe is still hurting. 6. Well, his first word was a curse word. But his first word was dash. Hisashi started before Aizawa quieted him with the hand to his mouth again. 39. What? Nedzu suddenly got out of his funk quick to stare down Hisashi. 6. 2. A moment of silence followed with even Izuku noticing the tension in the room. He looked back at his father sitting by his desk. He smiled at him before crawling his way to him to see his favorite thing on that desk that he saw before. Well, Principal Nedzu, Izuku's actual first words were dash. Aizawa explained to Nedzu oddly calm smiling face. Papa! Izuku called, smiling when he got his father's attention. Clapping he repeated, Papa. 11 Nedzu smiled softly at the sight of his little child saying his first words. Oh, my precious little mouse, Nedzu whispered before taking Izuku up into his arms. Yeah. We didn't tell you because we figured that Izuku would say it as soon as you come back. But it appears it didn't happen like the way we thought it would. So we all apologize. Tensei responded before the four bowed in unison as an apology. Oh, thank goodness. That means I have a video of it. Nedzu replied happily before tickling Izuku on his tummy. What do you mean? You have cameras in your office? Hisashi asked with a sweat bead rolling down his forehead. Oh please, I have cameras all over the school in each room made with different angles and full audio. Nedzu retorted with all his attention on his little dinosaur onesie-dressed son. Except for more private areas such as the restrooms. 91 that is unnerving, the four thought as they watched the happy father smiling with his child. But they all smiled as they watched the two act as father and son. For Izuku smiled into his father's shoulders before looking at his favorite thing on the desk his father did his work on. A picture frame of the family picture that Nedzu took. Nedzu was holding a smiling Izuku dressed in a custom-made Nedzu onesie complete with a matching suit to detail to imitate his father. He giggled at seeing his father and him dressed the same with matching smiles aimed toward the camera. For a happy family of 2. Well, 6 if you counted the honorary aunts and uncles, Nedzu thought. Nedzu realized that Izuku doesn't really have any friends his own age. The only friends he has are his stuffed animals and his family. 49 So, Nedzu, the great father that he is, decides that it is time for Izuku to make a friend his own age. And who better for the job than Tensei's younger brother? And that is what led to the moment of Tensei leaving his office very happily after agreeing to a play date. Apparently, Tenya didn't have many friends his own age either, so this union might make the two friends. 87 Nedzu looked over to Izuku who was wearing a short-sleeved black shirt with red shorts. The black shirt had a design of one of the top 10 heroes at that moment. And on his feet were bright white shoes that lit up every time he took a step. The shoes were Izuku's favorite thing at the moment since he couldn't stop staring down at them, stomping his feet to cause them to light up again. 106 Nedzu hopes the playdate this weekend goes smoothly. 87. Oh, I am all on this. Izuku's first playdate. Count me the hell in, Namuri stated proudly, downing her drink in one go. 5. Alright, Tensei chuckled. Hey, do you guys want to come too? We can't, Hisashi announced to the table before slamming his head down on the table. Aizawa explained, we have to work on a project on hero history. We are supposed to do research on heroes from about 100 years ago or so that made an impact on society in some way. But we have to get all our sources this weekend. 56. And it is ridiculously hard to actually find someone that someone in the class isn't doing, Hisashi groaned out with his face still smushed against the table. Oh, relax, Hisashi, Aizawa said. He turns his attention to the other two. I want as many pictures and videos as you can get. 12. Roger that. Namuri saluted while Hisashi was slowly starting to rise his head from the table because of Aizawa's grip on his hair. 7310 Sunday seemed like it showed up so fast. Aizawa and Yamada were away at a public library scouring the computers and books to find any hero they could find. While Namuri was led into Nedzu's apartment with Tensei and his brother right behind her. Nedzu guides the two inside where they saw Izuku laying on the floor in the living room with a coloring book set in front of him. 3. Izuku looked up to see his aunt and uncle visiting. What are doing, bud? Color. Izuku replied loudly, showing the bright colors that the marker had left all over his hands. Namuri giggled at the small mess he had on his hands. Tensei's little brother peeking out from behind his older brother's leg. 24. Izuku's attention drifted to Tenya who was still hiding behind his brother's leg. Izuku reached out his hand and waved at the other small boy. For Tenya's eyes brightened up and he waved right back at the other boy. Tenya, this is Izuku. Izuku, this is my little brother Tenya. 11. Hi, Izuku greeted. 118. "Hello," Tenya replied back while his brother guided him to Izuku. Tenya reaches out his hand towards the other boy before Izuku pulled him into a welcoming hug. Tenya froze up momentarily before he relaxed into the hug. 1:10 Meanwhile, Nemuri was taking a video of the whole thing since it was the most adorable meeting. Aizawa and Yamada are going to be so jealous. 1. I know, right? Tensei whispered back to her. 1. Izuku is wearing a white shirt with a red bow tie decal on his neckline. He was wearing his favorite light-up shoes which he was now showing to Tenya excitedly. 38 Tensei backs off, allowing the two to sit together as Izuku introduces Tenya to his coloring book as well as his markers. Tenya picks up a blue marker and starts to draw on one page as Izuku scribbles on the other. Nemuri sits on the couch to watch the television as the two kids colored. Tensei sits on the other side of the couch, watching them draw calmly while Nedzu was working on school-related stuff for tomorrow behind them. 5. It wasn't long before Tensei started to watch the television with Nemuri while Izuku continued coloring with Tenya. Izuku then felt a sudden urge to show Tenya his favorite octopus toy with all of the knitted arms. He looked around to see where he left it to find it laying over the chair next to the couch. "Be back," Izuku whispered, with a promise to Tenya who looked confused. Izuku started to crawl towards his toy before realizing that his toy was laying on top of the chair. He furrowed his brow, trying to reach for one of the knitted arms hanging down. Nemuri glanced over to the play area to find Izuku wasn't there and was near her instead. Tensei looked to where Nemuri pointed to see Izuku trying to stand up. Nemuri quickly took out her phone start recording a video while Nedzu came around the couch to get a closer look. The three didn't dare to stop Izuku as he started to stand up on his little legs. "Come on, Esku," Tensei encouraged while Tenya was watching his friend. 1. Izuku used the chair as something to lean on while he grabbed his toy from the top of the chair. He stumbled a bit when he took his hand from the chair. Nedzu walked around the couch to the other side to encourage Izuku. 23. "Come here, little mouse," Nedzu called, grabbing at the air towards his young child. "Papa," Izuku mumbled as one of his arms gripped his toy. He slowly made his way to Nedzu with an unsteady pace before finally collapsing into a hug. Tenya didn't know what to do with his hands, so he just clapped. 185. "I got all of it on camera," Nemuri cheered while Tensei looked emotional. 1. "So did I," Nedzu stated proudly. "But please send me that video since your point of view is closer than the security cameras in my house." 12. "Cameras? Oh yes, I got them installed shortly after everyone stayed overnight to babysit," Nedzu added, which made the two friends look to each other with a thought running through their heads. How much does he see? How much does he already know? 129:16 Tensei summed up. In short, the playdate yesterday was adorable. And it was even cuter when Izuku called Tenya, Tenten, and then Tenya called him Tizun. 140 Hisashi groaned in his hands. "I can't believe we missed Izuku's first steps. But we couldn't be there." 20. "If we wanted to fail our project, then yes we could have," Aizawa fired back at him. "Thank you for sending the video of him walking to us." 7. "No problem," Nemuri smiled, leaning back in her chair. Tensei continued to eat his fruit salad while Hisashi was still talking about how he wants there in person to witness the event. 3. "It was so cute," Hisashi cried out, switching to baby voice. His little bitty baby arms was just wrapped around his little toy. And those little bitty legs were, plus Hisashi pauses before screaming out, "Why?" 50 Aizawa cancelled his quirk just in time so that they all didn't bleed from the ears. Nedzu was feeling sentimental. 17 Who could blame him? 7 It had been a whole year since he adopted Izuku into his life and accepted his role as a parent to a human baby. Well, more like 10 months technically since he found him when he was only 2 months old. 43 Nedzu started having all sorts of feelings. He even began a video album made of surveillance tapes. With every day, he can't imagine what his life would have been like without his little Izuku. His life has gotten more tiring, yet all the happier. He used to live a life of being a captive experiment from humans to break out and form a life for himself. But afterward, his life just felt empty and boring. The only upside was him being able to be the principal for UA, And even then he was still criticized for slipping up. 30 But when Izuku came into his life, he started to see the bright side of things. The overall gray world made of black and white grew into color each and every day when he saw his baby smile. The hatred he felt all his life lessened when he heard Izuku laugh. 41 That's why he didn't really want to see him grow old, but he knew it was a part of life. Hell, even Izuku's honorary aunt and uncles were going to graduate eventually. 39 But instead of trying to hold back Izuku from growing up, like the humans used to do to him, he wanted to see him grow. He wanted to see Izuku become his own person, no matter if he wants to be a hero or not. 39 But right now, he has a birthday party to plan for Friday. The guests needed the time to buy Izuku's gifts. It will be interesting to see what they will gift him. 2. Now Izuku, we have to wait for the perfect temperature of the tea, Nedzu explained to the curious almost 1-year-old holding his teacup of imaginary tea. Nedzu wasn't about to have Izuku spill any tea in his clothes. 19th, Izuku drawled as he held onto his cup with both hands, staring intensely into the bottom of the cup. 70, yes, and then we sip. Nedzu finished off with an exaggerated sip to his tea. Izuku followed suit with a replicated loud slurp to his empty cup. He giggled and Nedzu smiled softly at the cheerful child. 63, I wouldn't trade my life as a father for anything. 87-21, what the heck do we get, Izuku? Hisashi said as he walked through the mall with his group. Tensei had Tenya riding in his shoulder while Namuri and Aizawa were constantly in watch with the shop windows. They were looking for something that Nedzu hadn't bought him at all. Which was so hard since Nedzu spoiled him a lot with all sorts of toys. 25. The best choice would be something a little more sentimental than just a cool plushie that we can buy anywhere. We have to deep dive into something that Izuku would like with a personal touch from us. Aizawa explained, looking around for anything that would be good for Izuku. Namuri's eyes brightened when her eyes locked in a certain shop. I got it. I can make my own stuffed animal. 21 She took off and the other followed her inside the Build-A-Bear. Namuri picked a white fluffy bear and a white mouse plush. She asked a worker to try to combine the two skins into one plush. They agreed to meet her back at the end of the shopping trip since the custom order will take a while. Hisashi headed down the hall and spotted something in the window of an antique thrift shop. He ran straight inside, leaving his other two friends to follow him inside. There he was already asking the worker behind the register for the music box in the window. The worker agreed and got it down from the display. 20 I used to love a little music box when I was little, so I want Izuku to have the same comfort I had when I was young, Hisashi explained while the worker retrieved the music box from its spot. 8 Hisashi paid while the others looked around the shop to see small items. Vintage dolls that they didn't want to, but since they didn't want Izuku to be haunted, they didn't get it. There were bronze brooches, old decorations, and other items that didn't seem like an option for Izuku. I think the music box was the only thing that Izuku would like from his store. 28 After that was done, Hisashi was carrying the music box in his doubled-up paper bag. Tensei led the way since he reimbursed a certain shop that the mall had. He sped up when he saw it further down. The other two hurried to follow after his friend who had his brother on his shoulders, laughing the whole way there. 13 Tensei walked fast inside a bicycle shop and headed towards the kids section. There he spotted a bright cherry red tricycle with a woven basket and tiny bell attached to the front. I learned to ride when I was very young, and I loved the freedom of riding around. I hope Izuku will like it. Tensei responded when Aizawa asked. Hisashi and Aizawa were both still breathless as Tensei talked about purchasing the trike. They met him outside with him, walked the tricycle beside him, and talking to Tenya about what he wanted to get his friend. 6 Tenya thought for a moment before saying, colors. 27 colors. Oh, you mean like coloring books and stuff? Tensei asked, receiving a nod from his brother. Okay. The three headed to the general store to buy a coloring book with crayons. They were just planning on getting a normal Pro Heroes coloring book before Tenya headed towards a large art kit containing a lot of art stuff. The kit contained crayons, markers, colored pencils, watercolors, and brushes. 22 colors. Tenya exclaimed while trying to pick up the large blue kit. 63. The three stared and shrugged before heading to the cash register to check out. They also got a Pro Heroes coloring book that they hadn't seen Nedzu get Izuku yet. They walked out and met Nemuri with their custom doll in a large brown paper bag. Aizawa was the only one who needed to get a gift to Izuku. He spotted the perfect gift in the window of a few stores down. Oh, Izuku would love that. 561-25. It was the day of Izuku's birthday party. Nedzu hosted it at his apartment since he didn't want it to be at UA where everyone could come. No, he wanted this to be a private party with only the closest family that Izuku had. Nedzu, Aizawa, Hisashi, Nemuri, Tensei, and his first friend Tenya. Izuku was dressed for the occasion with a birthday-themed onesie. He had a party hat on the top of his head surrounded by curly green hair. He had a bright, cheerful smile on seeing his favorite people. 35. Everybody was there and the party could commence. The party started with an animated movie before cutting the cake Nedzu had made ahead of time. 7. He was delighted that it turned out so well. A small 2-layer cake covered in delicious white buttercream. The top had the message, "Happy Birthday Izuku," written in thin green icing. All kinds of sprinkles were all around the cake. One layer was vanilla and the other was chocolate. 20. Aizawa, Hisashi, and Nedzu chose the vanilla cake on top while Nemuri, Tensei, Tenya, and Izuku ate from the bigger chocolate layer on the bottom. The cake was delicious. 26. After the cake, everyone sat down and talked to each other while their stomachs settled. After that, the present time. Izuku was already excited because his friends were here, but now he gets gifts. Best day. 60. Yay, Izuku said happily as Nedzu rounded up the gifts for Izuku. 6. Who wants to go first? Nedzu asked before Nemuri raised her hand. I'll go. Nemuri answered while picking up her white-wrapped gift with a red bow. I think Izuku will love this one. Oh really? Nedzu asked curiously to the plush bear-sized bag. Yep. Nemuri said, placing the bag in front of Izuku. Izuku ripped open the paper to see an almost exact replica of his father in plush form. 33. Papa. Izuku cried out before hugging the plush to his chest. The white bear-mouse hybrid had on a white dress shirt, black pants, a pair of black shoes, a black vest, and a glossy red bow tie. Nedzu chuckled at the small toy that looked like him sort of. 56. Thank you, Izuku exclaimed from the confines of the soft plush's fur. 8. I'll go next, Hisashi said as he placed a soft brown bag in front of Izuku. Izuku placed the plush to his side before ripping open the paper. Pretty, Izuku replied at seeing the cute outside of the music box. It had a light mint green outside with a carnation pink rim. Hisashi went ahead and turned the little crank. The soft song began to play as the music box opened to see a ballerina dancing in the center. Izuku giggled at the dancer while swaying to the music. 2. I think he likes it, Hisashi mumbled to his friends. Thank you, Izuku mumbled as he focused on the ballerina doing her dance while the lid slowly shut. 24. Tensei went up next with the tricycle. Izuku clapped at the sight while Nedzu was thoroughly surprised. This is a lovely tricycle, Nedzu responded to Tensei. Izuku looked at the whole gift with wide eyes and an open mouth. I hope Izuku will like it, Tensei answered. 111. He does. Thank you, Tensei. He will love it when he is old enough to ride it. Nedzu thanked, which made Tensei realize that Izuku probably won't use the bike until a few years later. 32. Tenya went next with his gift. Izuku loved it because of the many colors that were inside. Nedzu smiled as Izuku started to make a mess with the markers already. He carefully took the markers away for Aizawa to give Izuku a gift. 4. Problem child, I think you would like this since it is comfortable and makes us spot you easily, Aizawa said before handing Izuku's gift to him, which he proudly ripped off. 94. Izuku was now holding a pink sleeping bag with a soft pink lining on the inside. Izuku smiled before chanting. 317. He started to climb inside with his plush bear with the help of Aizawa. Thank you, Izuku mumbled from beneath all the comfy material. 45. Nedzu laughed at seeing his little boy having fun with his family surrounding him. Nedzu's time to give Izuku a gift. He laughed maniacally before lifting a huge bag from behind the couch. He gently dumped the movies onto the ground to show everyone what exactly he bought. 13 movies. A whole collection of movies ranging to animation to teen comedies. Studio Ghibli, Pixar, DreamWorks, and Disney movies took up the majority. But Aizawa saw Mean Girls and Legally Blonde in the pile. 245. What is up with these? Aizawa asked at the 2 movies that stuck out from the cartoon movies. 2. He needs to be cultured, Nedzu responded, which got him laughs from the other 3 teens in the room. Tenya looked confused while Aizawa looked on with a smile. 259. Izuku looked out from his sleeping bag to see his family having fun with each other. Nedzu looked at him to receive a smile from his little mouse. I think he knows how much his family loves him. I know that Izuku's family might grow in the future. Nedzu thought. It was family day today. Everyone's family was able to come to UA to spend some time with their child at the school campus. And it was even more exciting for the 3rd years that were graduating soon. It was only a short time before the 3rd years would start their own careers, including the 4 honorary aunt and uncles of the principal's son. 13. Hisashi's parents were chatting with Namuri's parents while Tensei's family were off to the side with Tenya. Unfortunately, Aizawa's parents couldn't really make it because of their work, but his mother informed him to take lots of pictures for her. 42. Hisashi was busy with Tensei as they were checking up on Tenya, who was excited to show Izuku his new puzzle book. Namuri was pulled into a conversation with her parents to talk more about her social life to make sure no one was bringing her down. They approved of her friends, but her father was protective over her and didn't want anyone to hurt his little girl. 31. Aizawa was hanging out in the principal's office, watching as Izuku crawled around fast on the floor. He watched as Izuku stood up after picking up one of his toys before running to him to show it off. 33. It has been a while since I've seen Mr. Sloth, Aizawa commented, ruffling Izuku's hair. Izuku laughed, showing off the little teeth inside his mouth. Tenny smiled as he thought back to the video Namuri had sent them with Izuku's first steps. Hisashi is still bitter that he wasn't there to see it. But it was a happy memory nonetheless that they were all going to remember fondly, especially since Nedzu had it all recorded from the security cameras in his office as well as Namuri's video. He thinks she even took some pictures. Since then Izuku has been walking a little better each day. He wonders if Izuku will just disappear from sight if he takes his eyes off of him. 53. It felt like just yesterday he was saying his first words and now he is walking around. Aizawa was getting all sentimental. He looked down at the sloth toy as the office seems to grow quiet around him. 2. The office door opened slightly to reveal his 3 friends without their parents. Namuri greeted, "Our parents all met each other and are chatting up a storm right now outside the cafeteria. How's it hanging with little Izuku?" "Everything is good for once. He has been playing with his toys since I got here," Aizawa explained, looking at his friends. "Well, where is he?" Tensei asked, receiving a confused look from Aizawa. 23. What do you mean? "He's right there," Aizawa said as he pointed to where he last saw Izuku. But his finger showed nothing but empty space and a forgotten toy lying on the ground. 16. Where did he go? Hisashi called out loudly in confusion. The friends hurriedly looked around the office to see no sign of the green-haired boy, not behind the desk, not next to his toys, not next to the wide-open door. 13. Son of a honeybun. Aizawa yelled in frustration at seeing where Izuku might have gone. "Why did you leave the door open?" 92. I thought I did. Namuri replied, "I didn't close it all the way, but I didn't leave it wide open like that." 5. Oh dear, this is bad, Tensei said after he walked up to the empty doorway. "I don't see him in the hallway. Where did he walk off to?" 6. Okay, Hisashi, go find where Nedzu is and see if Izuku is just trying to find him. Distract him if necessary. I'm going to head down the rooms of this hallway and stay in this area, so if he comes back I'll be here. Namuri, you go walk around downstairs and see if you can find him anywhere. Tensei, head down to the parents and see if he shows up anywhere. Aizawa broke it down. The friends nodded in agreement before taking their job positions. Meanwhile, Izuku smiled from his favorite hiding spot in the office. He thinks it will be an exciting game of hide and seek. Izuku hid his giggle as he silently walked off toward where he heard other children. They must be far away, but he will find them and make friends. 110-3, hello. Nedzu greeted his student as 𝗧𝗪𝐵 walked towards where he was. How are you doing? Is running an event like this calming or stressing? 𝗧𝗪𝐵 asked, hoping to get Nedzu on a big tangent of some kind. 16, whatever do you mean? I like to have these events to show the extent of what UA has to offer. This event allows the family of students to visit and explore the school that their child is attending with little restrictions. It is basically like a tour through the school with the family able to talk to anyone and just have fun, Nedzu explained. Ah, is this because you wish to pursue into becoming an entertainer as well? Yep. I wanted to know more about this kind of being a host thing since I want to be a radio DJ. That's the only reason why, 𝗧𝗪𝐵 rambled, trying his best to distract Nedzu. Anyway, is there any advice you can give me? 3. Why, of course. I think I have just the advice you need, but it might be a long explanation, Nedzu informed him. 𝗧𝗪𝐵 waved it off. I have plenty of time. My parents are checking out outside with the Kiyama family. Please, tell me everything. 14. You might want to take notes, Nedzu added, leading him to a more open area near the cafeteria. 𝗧𝗪𝐵 silently prayed that they find Izuku fast because he doesn't really know how long this Nedzu lecture is going to last. Well, at least he will get some helpful information about what to do in his future. 5-3, Tenya called out as he saw his brother make his way towards them. 1. Hi, Tenya. Tensei greeted his brother with a friendly smile. Hey, have any of you seen a green-haired kid around Tenya's age near here? His mom furrowed her brows. Is someone missing? No. I might just think he is playing hide and seek or something with us, Tensei answered back. A game of hiding and seek that we have no idea we are playing. He thought to himself. For Tensei looked down at his brother, squatting down to his level. Anyway, I'm just out there looking for him. Do you want to help, Tenya? Izuku is playing hide and seek. Find a friend. Tenya asked with his bright eyes sparkling at the chance to play with his older brother and his first friend. You want to help your big brother out? Tensei asked, stretching out a hand. Tenya excitedly grabbed his hand and walked with his brother through the outside. He kept his eye open as he slowly walked side by side with his brother. It wasn't long before Tensei picked him up in his arms to avoid dragging his little brother behind him since his pace was a bit faster. Tenya settled in his arms quickly, scoping out the area to find his friend. Tenya spotted a head of green hair behind a bush. Izuku peered over the leaves and brought a finger to his lips. Tenya tilted his head at the action before repeating the action back. Izuku nodded back at him, slowly crawling out of his hiding spot to continue walking back into the school. 46. Friend. Yeah, we are looking for Izuku. Friend went in. Izuku went back inside. Tenya nodded back at his brother because he can't keep a secret from him. 78. Okay, good. Tensei responded back, digging into his pocket to call Nemuri. Nemuri? Yeah, it's me. Listen, Izuku should be on the first floor right now, more towards the east area of the school. Tenya saw him go in apparently. Yeah. I'm still outside. Alright, sounds good. Guess I can be out here for a little longer. Hey, do you want to play a game? Tensei asked, smiling at his brother while on the inside he was screaming. 15-5 Nemuri headed straight towards where Tensei told her that Izuku would be, surveying the surroundings to spot familiar green curls. She was about to look around the area for the third time when he heard the familiar giggle of Izuku coming from nearby. For a split second, she could see a head of curls heading upstairs. Her eyes widened and tried to follow him only to find out she lost him in the many people in the hallway passing through. Nemuri texted Aizawa that Izuku just got past her and was heading upstairs. She ran her hand down her face. She hopes they find him soon. She was so worried that he might be hurt while he was running around. Or that they would be hurt for losing him in this big school. 9-6 Izuku stumbled his way inside his father's office to go back into his favorite hiding spot behind his papa's desk. Aizawa walked into the office, noticing how the office door was open slightly more than before, hoping that it wasn't just a coincidence. He was just in the faculty room looking for Izuku for about the 5th time. He had already checked all the rooms on the floor except the office. Aizawa's eyes swept over the room, notching practically nothing out of place since last time he checked. Meanwhile, under Nedzu's desk, Izuku was beginning to feel like he wanted to end the game already, but he was having fun with everyone playing hide and seek with him. Aizawa breathed out heavily, sinking down to sit right in front of Nedzu's desk where Izuku was hiding. He groaned with face in his hands. Where is he? This never would have happened if it weren't for me. If I would have watched him better as I should have, this wouldn't have happened. But now I don't know where he is if he is hurt. 𝗧𝗃𝗁 at being an uncle for Izuku. He said sadly looking at the ground. If I can't find one kid, how am I supposed to save people? He thought to himself before glancing out of the corner of his eye to see Izuku peeking over the corner of Nedzu's desk. 7. Izuku, Aizawa sighed in relief. Izuku called out from his spot. No sad. Sorry. 76 Aizawa got wrapped up in a hug by Izuku, who looked on the verge of tears. Izuku, are you okay? Did you get hurt? I'm okay. Sorry. Izuku mumbled into his chest. Aizawa rubbed his curls. Next time you want to play hide and seek, let all of us know first. We were all worried about you. Izuku tightened his grip on Aizawa's school jacket while Nemuri showed up at the office door to the scene before them. She was a bit worried since Aizawa hadn't responded in text yet. Hisashi appeared next with a tired look in his eyes and a notebook filled with helpful advice from Nedzu. 5. They all joined in on the hug in the ground of the office and listened to Izuku apologize for making them worried. They were all just happy that Izuku was safe now, and a little tired from the wild goose chase. Izuku sniffled softly as they all reassured him that they weren't mad, only worried. For soon, the four joined the pair of brothers playing catch. Aizu-chan. 3. Hi, Ten-chan. 61. You guys want to grab something to eat since family day is almost over? Yes, Hisashi and Nemuri said in a tired unison. Aizawa watched Izuku play with Tenya as the four friends ate with their parents. Tenya was happily showing Izuku his new book while the two snacked on sliced apples. He made sure to never take his eyes off of him for too long. They were a family after all. 9-7 Nedzu sighed as he tucked Izuku good night. You okay, Izuku? You have been looking quite down. Was it because of what happened today? 5 Izuku nodded sadly to his dad from under his comfy blanket. Well now cheer up. They were just worried for you, that means they care an awful lot about you. Nedzu explained while fixing up his pillows. 34, really? Izuku perked up at hearing that maybe they didn't hate him because of the stunt he pulled. He was really worried that he might not play with them again. 2. Yes really. I consider them a part of your family. No matter if they are related to you or not. They will genuinely care for you and love you as I do. Nedzu kindly replied with a soft smile. 6. Love you papa. Izuku tiredly retorted as his eyes drooped. Love you too, little mouse. Good night. Nedzu said, placing a small kiss on his forehead before heading out of the room. 21. He is growing up so fast. Nedzu thought as he looked back at his son's room. Hopefully he doesn't grow up too fast. Nedzu enjoyed letting Izuku life a normal life. 166 He went to a normal school because Nedzu wanted him to live as normal as he could with a pro hero as his secret father. Hopefully he finds some friends that will be there for him in the long run. 2. When he grew older, Nedzu hoped that Izuku will live his life as freely as he can because Nedzu wanted him to be uncontrolled. Maybe with a little bit of instruction and advice, but never with an abusive hand pushing him into things. 53 Izuku was 3 years old now and Nedzu was feeling that the time was passing too quickly. It felt like a week ago that Izuku turned 1. 36 Nedzu sipped his mint tea with his little mint-flavored cookies as he watched Izuku interact with Tenya during the school day at UA. 21 Tenya was allowed to have a play date with his friend while their big brother was busy with his new hero work. Yes, all his honorary uncles and aunt were now working as pro heroes. Under the names Midnight, Ingenium, Present Mike and Eraserhead, they patrol the streets and protect the innocent from danger. Nedzu couldn't be more proud at what they have become. 63 Although he does remember that they graduated with a heavy heart by having to say goodbye to their honorary nephew. They missed getting to see him every day, but they do visit when they don't have any patrol clogging up their schedule. Aizawa visited the most during the day since he works as an underground hero during the night. 7 Anyway, enough of talking about the past because 𝗵𝗃𝗏 was visiting with Nedzu to talk about when he might be able to enroll his children in UA. Nedzu allowed him to bring his youngest child, 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏, so that Izuku might have another friend to lay with while his father talked to another father. He hoped that 𝗵𝗃𝗏 had fixed his whole problem with All Might and was actually behaving like a good father to his children. 126 But his hope will be quickly diminished very soon. 3013 Tenya and Izuku were coloring in their coloring books when a child of split white and red hair walked in shyly. Behave, a harsh voice said from the deck of the door before shutting it loudly. 24 The young boy flinched before continuing to a place a few feet away from the two. Izuku tilted his head and looked at Tenya. I think he is shy. 20 It looks like he is, Tenya replied. What do we do? 11 I'm going to invite him over to play with us, Izuku said to his friend before they both nodded at each other. The new boy looked over when Izuku walked to him. What do you want? I want to be friends, Izuku responded with his hand held out. I'm Izuku. 5 Why do you want to be friends? 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏 asked quietly. 34 Izuku looked at him. Because you look lonely, and I don't want you to be. 7 We have a wide selection of toys to play with, Tenya yelled out from his spot behind Izuku. 88 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏 mumbled. What's your favorite hero? Mine is Nedzu, Izuku asked the young boy. 33 I like my brother, 𝗵𝗃𝗏𝗻, the best, Tenya said from behind Izuku, looking at 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏. 2 I like All Might, but my dad doesn't like him very much, 𝗧𝗏𝗏 answered with a slight pink tinge to his cheeks. 6 All Might is a good hero. He works well with his enhanced abilities to rescue people and defeats villains easily, Izuku replied intelligently with his hand under his chin. Tenya nodded at his words while 𝗧𝗏𝗏 looked at them curiously. 102 We can play a game of heroes. I'll be Nedzu, Tenya can be 𝗵𝗃𝗏𝗻, and you can be All Might, Izuku offered. 14 I don't have to be 𝗵𝗃𝗏𝗏, 𝗧𝗏𝗏 asked, raising his brow. 134 Nope. 5 𝗧𝗏𝗏 was beginning to like this place. 133 9 Nedzu was tired of 𝗵𝗃𝗏𝗏. He hasn't changed his mind about his little petty rivalry at all in these past years. 29 He walked with him back to the room where the children were playing. Nedzu opened the door to see his child getting along well with the other two. They all seemed to be playing with some action figures of recent pro heroes. His heart grew at the sight of his son playing with a little cloth doll that he made himself a few months ago since Nedzu didn't make any merchandise. Tenya was playing his brother and 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏 was playing with a tall All Might figurine. 2 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏, 𝗵𝗃𝗏𝗏 called out to his son, scaring the 3 children inside the room. Nedzu fur bristled at his son's frightened face. 129 𝗵𝗃𝗏𝗏, I highly recommend you lower your voice, Nedzu offered to the tall alumni. 𝗵𝗃𝗏𝗏 scoffed while his son scurried to his side, rather silent. Nedzu noticed how 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏 hid his left arm from his sight as he rushed past to gate behind his father. Nedzu narrowed his gaze to see that 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏 scratches at his covered arm. Before he could ask if the boy wanted to go to the nurse's office, 𝗵𝗃𝗏𝗏 started dragging him away by his left arm. 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏 winced at his string grip while he practically dragged him away from the room. Nedzu crosses his arms with a sinister smile on his face, looking at 𝗵𝗃𝗏𝗏 exiting. He turned back to Izuku to ask some questions. Did you notice anything strange, son? Nedzu approached his son. Izuku tapped his finger to his chin, remembering the play date. He didn't really believe us when we told him we wanted to play with him and be friend. He told us his dad didn't like All Might. Strange. Anything else? Nedzu asked. He reacted scared if we yelled too loud. He, kind of scratched at his left arm every now and then. Tenya added from his place next to Izuku's side. 9 Nedzu hummed to himself before nodding to himself. You two continue your fun. Where are you going, Dad? Izuku questioned his father as he opened the door. 22 I'm going to call up an old friend who helped me before. I need his help for a big case I'm about to be headmaster of. And if my hunch is correct, the person in question will face a punishment worse than death. Nedzu answered with a creepy smile. 126. Oh. Love you. Izuku commented before continuing to pick up and play with his homemade cloth doll. 367. I love you too, little mouse. Nedzu commented before closing the door. 1915. Detective. Nice to see you again. Ready to bring down a prob hero with me. Want some tea? Nedzu greeted 𝗂𝗍𝗧𝗏, overjoyed at the possibility of getting Endeavor right where he wanted him. 15. Oh boy. 𝗂𝗍𝗧𝗏 sighed before taking his seat across from Nedzu sitting at his desk. 16. Now then, Nedzu gathered himself before smiling happily at the man. What is our first step to get rid of this piece of SHT?